We're coming to you from Xaverian Brothers High School. Tom Leyden with Gerry Lambert, the most recently inducted Baseball Hall of Famer in the state of Massachusetts. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Tom. It's a pleasure to speak with you today.
Hold that microphone up a little bit closer to your mouth so people can hear you better. What a great honor, very well deserved. There's so much to talk about, and I guess we'll just start it off with the reaction that you had when you heard that you were going to join this elite group of individuals who were inducted into the Hall of Fame.
So somewhat uniquely, the Mass Baseball Coaches Association allows for still active coaches to be inducted. That's the first fork in the road, right? Certain organizations, even professionals, you have to be retired for X years. And so the MBCA is one of those places where you have to be active, but you have to be coaching for 20 years. I really wasn't thinking much about it. I am a member of the executive board of the MBCA, and the day of the Hall of Fame announcements, the day of the Hall of Fame votes, Yeah,
did they kick you out for a while?
They said, so I showed up and they were like, okay, we have a last minute nominee, and it was my name. And of course, because I'm now one of the considered members, they basically said, why don't you go out in the hallway and we'll call you. And so I went from thinking I was going to be voting for the 4 of the 7 or 8 nominees that we had to all of a sudden I'm the 9th nominee, and I'm out in the hallway twiddling my thumbs.
Wow. Well, congratulations. And when you think about somebody who is associated with an organization or a school like you are, I mean, just look at the numbers, which, like a teacher, you wrote down on the whiteboard next to us, graduated from the school in 1988, and then you've been working here since 1994, a part of the baseball program since 1994. So 29 years, not 29 full seasons, but when you look back at that almost 3 decades of accomplishment, how would you best summarize what you've been able to accomplish?
Well, I will start with this. You mentioned that I'm a graduate, and I think it always adds a little bit of not only motivational, chutzpah to the situation, because you sort of lean on your oar a little bit harder when you went to that school. I was a student athlete here, and so the opportunity to coach where you went to school is a unique thrill. And I started off as the varsity assistant coach, building a tradition, helping build a tradition. And when I took over, I felt like we were in a position as a school where we had some momentum and were able to hopefully continue the journey that was begun well before me. And we were fortunate enough in the first few years to really assemble some talent. You don't always have the most talented team, of course. When you don't, you grind it out as best you can, and when you do, you hope the stars align, and you're able to make some noise, and that's what's happened a few times for me.
I want to give you a couple of personal insights. First one is this. I had a little history with Xaverian when I was in high school, and here's why. Because I went to Fairfield Prep in Connecticut. Very similar school, all-boys school. It's only 9 to 12 down there, but I remember our defending state champion football team going from the 1988 season to the 1989 season. In 89, we came up here. I was not on the team, but I had a lot of dear friends who were on the team, including my friend Bill English, who might actually even be listening to this, or maybe he turned it off when he saw the word Xaverian, because Bill was our all-state defensive lineman. We came up to play big, bad Xaverian. First play of the game, Bill broke his leg on that field right back there, right? So I've always carried this, I don't know what feeling it is about Xaverian. So it was interesting.
Burial ground.
Right? It was interesting that I moved here, number one, and interact with people who have so much to do with this school. The other personal memory of me interacting with you is this. I didn't know who you were. And I met you through your daughters, because your daughters and my daughters both play softball. And I remember it was one fall softball game, and some dude was coaching third, and I was like, that guy knows what he's doing. And he said, well, he should. He's the head coach at Xaverian. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. All right. And from there, I obviously did my research and sort of dotted my I's and crossed my T's and said, wow, this person has accomplished a lot. But as you look at this whiteboard, I wish people who were listening could see this. We have listed here the championship teams, and even one team that went, I think, to the finals, or at least lost to the championship team.
Lost to the finals.
Yeah, 04, 12, and 21. Is there one common characteristic of those teams?
2 things come to mind. First of all, on every one of those teams, the best couple of players were also the guys willing to go the extra mile and work hard. Coach, can you leave the balls so we can hit a little bit more? We're done with practice, but we'd like to take some more swings. Mm-hmm. Or, Coach, I'd like to address the team after the game, and after a game maybe that we lost. And so these guys were on it, and they were not just leaders in their skill set, but leaders in their approach and leaders in the way they talk to the team and developing a mindset. And because you do have to be very fortunate to win your last game of the year, but you have to have you also have to have this mental toughness and this grinded out mentality. Even when you are a very talented baseball player, if you are unwilling or unable to grind it out, you're not going to win in the long run. You're not going to win 6 games in a row in the tournament, which is these days 5 or 6, depending upon the division you're in now. But that's what it takes. And when you're playing the top teams in the state, winning 5 or 6 in a row, yes, there's good fortune, but there's that learned grind and effort and going the extra mile. And all 3 of those teams had that.
You got a ton of support during a very tumultuous time around 2019, and that, of course, then evolved into what was a season that was wiped out by COVID. Can you touch on the support that you got from Diana, your wife, your daughters, everybody here in Westwood who was in your corner, and how difficult that was for you, because you were eager and ready to get back on the field in 2020, and then that season was taken away from you too?
Sure. So the school, let's face it, in the modern world today, you have schools are very public entities, and you have the school has to worry about its image, and the school has to worry about the public relations part of it. And so the school made a decision to back me and see that through. That is not the public relations easiest thing to do, so I'm hugely appreciative of that. And as you say, then to gear up throughout the fall and the winter of 2019 and 2020, ready to get back at it for the season. And then obviously world events take over and a switch gets flicked, and as we all know, life was, I don't think anybody can remember a time who's alive where life more radically changed from, let's say, March 10th, 2019 to March 17th, 2019. And that's right where the baseball season was supposed to start. I'm sorry, 2020.
Right.
That's right where the baseball season was supposed to start, and me, like everybody else on planet Earth, was put on the sidelines and to twiddle thumbs.
What's great, though, is when you finally come back in 2021, I remember watching a Westwood softball game with you, and you started talking about your team. And first of all, you said this is the best team I've ever had. I guess we shouldn't tell that to the guys from 2012 or 2004. But you did say that.
Yep.
Secondarily, you said, school's been done for 6 weeks. Like, literally, I feel like I'm coaching like semi-pros, because all they do is they go to their jobs and they come here and play baseball. But that's how it was, because the playoffs, if you went to the championship game that year, I don't think you won until like July 2nd.
The 5th.
Yeah,
July the 5th.
Think about, it's crazy. You'll never experience that
Correct.
again. But how about that 2021 year and how good that team was, because that's the most recent one, and how much you probably appreciated that season even more, considering what you'd been through personally?
So I remember the tryout week, which normally is the 3rd week of March. In 2021, it was the last week of April. It was the week after the Boston Marathon. Well, maybe should have happened. I don't remember what happened that year with the marathon, but that was trial week. And so you're watching your team a year removed from any real data, because in 2020 nobody played, and you're like, yeah, these guys are really good. But how good they are compared to teams that you don't know about because you haven't seen anybody in a year or two as well. But you get into a mode where we just can't possibly be just another team this year. And then once we started playing games, yeah, the Catholic Conference was good, as they always are. And yeah, we had a great schedule, as I think we always do. But we were winning. One of the things about that team, we wound up 18-1, and the only game we lost was an extra inning game. We lost in 11 or 12 innings to CM, basically because I put the wrong relief pitcher in after 2 or 3 other guys who would come in, but that's okay. You're learning about your team. But most importantly, that momentum that you can see them carrying through. And as you say, our school year at Xaverian is over before most public schools is. Our last day of finals that year was June 7th. Our seniors wrap up on May 15th or May 20th. And so you're talking about quite literally a 6-week stretch. And yet I've had people say to me, well, isn't that a distraction, or don't you lose the focus of the guys? I would say the opposite. They didn't have to worry about school. Mm-hmm. They didn't have to worry about managing their homework and stuff. They could just be essentially minor league ball players. And it was a joy, and the weather was great. And it was just all the stars aligned. And certainly a super fond memory, that July 5th, 2021, that was the state final. We beat Leominster up there. The culmination of a very satisfying season, not just for that particular team and the journey they made. Every team has a unique journey, but also that mindset of, personally for myself, that sort of vindication, if you want to use that word.
Let's wrap it up this way. You're not only a coach, you're an educator. You're in the classroom on a regular basis. You really touch the lives of, go back over 3 decades, I would imagine thousands, right? not exaggerating. So what's the legacy you want to pass on? What is the lesson, the most important lesson that you want to pass on to the young men whose lives you influence?
I think it's very similar as a coach or as a teacher. First of all, I think they're very closely related jobs. If you're a coach who can't teach, you're not going to be a very good coach. And if you're a teacher who can't coach their way to maybe getting students to buy in or making a journey with a class, then I think you're not an ideal teacher either. So I think the two jobs overlap very nicely. But I think it's that there's really no substitute for it. At a certain point, you got to put your nose to the grindstone and get to work. You can be very good, but are you committed to getting better? You can be a talent, but are you willing to go the extra mile? Because you might not need to do that this year. But if you're a student in high school who 40% throttle gets you an A, the problem is eventually in college, 40% throttle won't get you an A. And are you ready to answer that call? Or I'm just the best athlete. A lot of future collegiate players are the best athlete on their high school team. Everybody's a good athlete in college. And so now what do you have in terms of the extra mile, in terms of that mindset and that commitment to excellence? And I think that's hopefully what my students and my players hear from me, because I think that is a message I try to be consistent about.
Well, hopefully there's still some more in the tank, and there are still more years of you in the dugout here leading the Hawks, and congratulations on everything you've achieved. This was fantastic to learn. I'm sure Saturday's induction ceremony was great, and thank you for sharing your story with our town and for sharing your talents with this community, because we all appreciate it.
Tom, it's a pleasure to talk with you. As I said at the beginning, it's a real treat. I appreciate you considering my story worthwhile to share with other people, and I want to congratulate you for this, and I keep up all the great work. I know in our household it's a thing that we enjoy.
That's great. All of you listening, that's Gerry Lambert. You can learn more. Go to westwood-living.com. Of course, if you've got good ideas of people I should talk to here on the podcast, call me, send me an email. I'm very easy to find, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to tell stories and celebrate achievements, and this was a big one this weekend. Gerry Lambert going into the Massachusetts
Baseball Coaches Association.
Thank you. Hall of Fame. Here he is, a Hall of Famer. You should see the trophy. You will see. I'll take a picture. I'll post it on my Instagram account. Thanks a lot, Jer.